Hello, everybody. My name is Joel Filderman, and welcome to the Dog Trainers Connection. I am not a dog trainer, but these other people you see here are. They have a number of years of experience in this dog training world, and we'd get together and discuss a topic, come up with some thoughts, some ideas, and sometimes some answers. We always have an interesting conversation. Today's topic has to do with the fact that we're almost at that point where we're to that lovely part of the year where it's the holidays. The holidays bring about stress. But what I was thinking about in conjunction with that, I guess that's the word I'm looking for, is stress as dog trainers and burnout as dog trainers. How do you handle it, and do you have it? First off, if you do, how do you handle it, and what kind of advice can you give to people so that they can either deal with it or, better yet, not have it to begin with? And so, Joyce, let me start with you.
Funny.
Yeah. Since you didn't look like you wanted to start anyway, so go ahead.
I think it's a combination of stress and compassion fatigue.
Yes, that's exactly what I was referring to. Yep.
So the stress, I think, comes from non-compliant clients and people not following or even attempting to follow the programs, not doing their homework, expectations, unrealistic expectations. The compassion fatigue comes in where we aren't doing this because we hate dogs. We're doing it because we have a huge amount of love and caring for dogs, and we want to help assure that they have a good life. And when you see that not happening and you're constantly bombarded with sad cases and difficult cases, especially if you're dealing with aggressions and fears and phobias and all those very difficult cases, it can wear on you. And I've been doing this now for over 20 years, the training side of it, being involved with animals for over 30. And there have been times I've just had to take a break, just walk away and go do something else. It doesn't mean I quit my job or that I don't become a trainer. I'm not a trainer anymore. It just means that I sometimes have to clock out.
Are you saying for a longer term, or are you saying for just the day?
It's been varying amount of time. There was a time, there's been 2 or 3 times where I started to dislike the dogs I was working with. And it wasn't that I actually disliked the dogs. I was just stressed beyond max. And I was just, my compassion fatigue had gone over the board and I hadn't been taking care of myself. So I had to clock out I was probably out for a couple months and decided to go do something else for a while. But most of the time it's just taking a long weekend or, going away, making sure you take a week or 2 here and there, treat yourself well, don't, and I know it's hard in the money making aspect, because if we're not working, we're not making money, but
sure.
That needs to be, I think that's one of the things I try to teach my up and coming trainers is that you have to plan your life for this. You have to put in times where you are just not going to be there. You're going to go away. You're going to take care of yourself. So if you're not set up in life to be able to work and make money and market yourself, get that income in, if you're expecting somebody else to do it for you, but you're not set up with connections and being able to do that, then you're going to have a really rough go of it, because taking care of yourself is paramount in this business. If you don't, you can't help the dogs and you can't help the people. And it comes on without warning. I mean, you'll just all of a sudden one day wake up and just not want to go to work, or you just look at the dogs and kind of growl back at them. And you're just not into it anymore. And it's a horrible feeling. You don't know where it popped up from. And if I didn't have as many years in this as I did, I may think there was either nothing of it or there was something else going on, but I'm able to identify it and say, nope, I need a break. This is my stress level. This is compassion fatigue. I need to go focus on some other things.
Okay. And Jeff, as a rescue person, how do you keep away from it? How do you keep away from that compassion fatigue for overly caring for the dogs, that it really drains you and
I just deal with it. No,
okay.
I'm kidding. Like some people don't understand it. And like Joyce said, you do the same thing every day that you love, which is awesome, but then stuff just kind of sneaks up on you. And and Steve talks about dog training being a mechanical skill, which I agree with 100%. And then we all agree that there's a certain knowledge base that comes along with helping people and animals. The spiritual side of it is where, and I talk to my students all the time about it, and it's not talked about enough. So I think this is a really good topic because, whether you believe in spirituality, I didn't mean to use that word. I know it's,
it is what it is.
I think people understand what I'm talking about,
sure.
But, I think my saving grace, and I think most dog trainers, when we start being dog trainers, we usually have our real job. And then we do dog training at night or on the weekends. In my case, you sprinkle rescue into the equation and, it adds a lot, but I also had a lot to break up the monotony of my day. The first half of my career was probably, I had my real job. I was a computer technician, and then I was in corporate America for a while. And I did my dog training and rescue after working hours. I think for me, it was a little easier to manage because dealing with corporate America was more stressful than anything I've ever done since I resigned in 2007 from my last corporate job. So any stress I get today is nothing compared to being a little tiny worm on whale shit in a corporation of 90,000 employees. Right? The stresses of owning your own business, obviously there's certain challenges to that. But everything else in my life, it holds true. When I experience this, I just focus on the positive stuff. Even spiritually, and everybody knows I'm in recovery. I've been sober since 1994. So, every time I feel a little spiritually off, I'll sit down, I'll write a gratitude list. I pray, I meditate, I take a walk in nature, usually with a dog. But those are some things I try to center myself spiritually, mostly for my sobriety, but just for living life and a somewhat reasonably sane state of mind, which I know might be hard for you to believe, but.
And I guess that goes into your training as well.
I have moments of sanity, I swear.
but I guess that goes into your training and your rescue work as well.
Yeah, it does. And when I get overwhelmed, and this is where for me it's important. My wife and I, our relationship is such we don't candy coat stuff. And there's times, and I'm not proud of it, but there's times I go down to take care of the dogs in the morning, and I'll yell at them every once in a while, and that's a barometer. They're not doing anything different. They're doing their same, oh my God, it's time to eat bark.
Yeah.
But there are days where it goes through me. So what changed? I changed. And, fortunately, my wife would be like, what the hell was that all about? So, it's good that she keeps me in check because we can get overwhelmed very easily. And, so like Joyce said, whether you take a break for a weekend or whatever, or, I can't take a break. I haven't been on vacation in 7 years, which is a problem. But we're working towards that, mostly because of the types of dogs I bring here. I can't leave them in the care of someone else. But we do have to make time for ourselves. So whether, someone is feeling this and they need to spend time with themselves for a day or a few hours or a weekend, whatever works for you and your schedule and your budget is a must, because nothing's going to change. So it's up to us. We have to change, right? Our clients are still going to be non-compliant, right? Dogs are going to still need our help. Life is still going to be life. So we need to make sure we can only keep our side of the street clean. So, but it is real. It's, compassion fatigue is real. Stress comes in everything, in any, endeavor. I mean, it's just how we cope with it. And, the main thing is that we need to acknowledge it. See, because if we don't acknowledge it and we're not honest with ourselves, that will become less effective. And worse, really worse, is even if we're just, let's just say we're angry. And I'm not talking about being physical with dogs. Just being angry, frustrated, tired, really overly emotional can affect dogs.
Of course.
So it's okay to be human. It's okay to be human.
Sure.
So.
Okay. Steve, has it changed for you at any point, or have you always dealt with it in the same way?
Well, in my case, it's the only job I ever had, kind of, and all those years in the animal hospital. I mean, I see it for veterinarians. They suffer from compassion fatigue a lot. I mean,
Sure.
it's difficult, life and death and all that. I mean, it's not easy, but it's like Jeff says, it's going to be the way it is. It's a question of how you take it and deal with it. That's going to be the ultimate result is, well, what are you going to do? What are you going to do about it? I don't, I guess maybe I've been around long enough where the clients aren't going to necessarily listen. And if you do the best you can, that's the best you can do, right? I mean, it's not on you when you're out there and you're giving and giving and giving, and they're just not taking it because they just, for whatever their reason, they got their lives. It's like he says, we're only human. We do, we're all the same that way. I mean, it's natural in many ways for us to get to that place. I mean, I just, look, if I have to lighten my caseload, which I've done, I've stopped taking certain cases because they were the ones that were killing me. So I just stopped. If I can't do it, I can't. If I can't be helpful, then why would I be involved in that?
Sure.
But there are certain areas of our profession that are, what can I say? Hug a puppy. I mean, it always feels good. It always feels good. You may bleed a little bit because they're just they get you. But you know what? I bleed in joy when it comes to that. It's like, come on, I know what's going on here. I hope I taste good. It's all right. I understand you very well, and you're not the first, to suck my blood, and you won't be the last. And it's okay. It's okay. I mean, I think about a lot about the cases you take. If you take those tough cases, all those phobic dogs, and sadly, a lot of these rescue dogs, they come up and you feel bad for them in the first place, and then on top of that, they just continue to be assaulted. Some of those are really tough. That you take that home, you take that home. But I'm sure I probably said this somewhere along the line of one of these things. But years and years, my parents were interesting when it came to the dogs. My mother was a dog lover. My father was like a European. He believed that dogs were farm animals, and having them in the house was not so easy for him. But there was that one, I'll never forget this so long as I live. He wakes me up one Saturday morning and he says, your dog has to go out. And I said, come on, Dad, it's Saturday morning. I just want to sleep a little bit longer. And he goes, that's fine. Sleep as late as you want. Just don't go to the bathroom until after you've walked your dog. And, I was like, oh, okay. I got right up out of bed, what I mean? And he's like, he would say, if I was going to eat and it's like meal time, breakfast, dinner, did you feed the dog? And I'm like, not yet. I'll do that after breakfast. He goes, no, first you feed the dog, then you take care of yourself. And so this is from a guy who is not an animal guy.
Right.
But I got that sucked right into me. It's like, you know what? That's all correct stuff as far as I'm concerned. First, take care of the dog. We can take care of ourselves. The dog requires that we take care of it. So you got to do, it's just like I don't know, you can call it a blessing or you can call it a curse, but I went that, it's just the way I go. And just in terms of that stress, I'm like, you know what? If they give me a real hard time, I have to try and understand from where they come themselves. And sometimes you have to say to people, it's like, you should have got a fish, right? Really? I mean, I've been there many times. Maybe you really didn't pick the right pet. Because these animals they're just not going to sit there. What they do is they wait. That's what dogs do for a living. They wait for you. And if you're not there for them, that's on you. And
they're not decoration.
They're not decorations. They wait. You know that every time you walk in the door and they go berserko, right? It's like, thank God he's alive. He's back. That kind of thing. Nobody else treats me that way, I'll tell you that. So it's a beautiful thing in a way. And so, you know what, you just think about that. Think about, it's a responsibility, but it's a wonderful one.
Yeah.
So, you know, kept me going 40 years. I mean, I'm sure it'll keep me going until I can't do it anymore. But, you know, it's like, I get it. I feel what you're saying. I know it exists, but there are more important things than how I'll be able to step back for a minute, but the dog's never going to be able to step back. If nobody help, if you don't help, there's no help. So you got to do it. You know, that's how I feel about it. It's a responsibility, and it's a nice one at that.
So Bonnie, what about that awful word compliance that Joyce brought up? What about when your clients are non-compliant?
Yeah, it can be very difficult because I know for me, caring so much, if somebody hires me and pays me to help them, and I'm really caring to give them everything I can give to help them out, to research things for them, to get in touch with other colleagues, to say, hey, you know, I have this case and the dog's doing X. How do you work that? What exercises do you do? What I know I've asked Joyce about supplements for calming and impulse control exercises. And it's honestly, I took a break from training to work more on Dog Trainers Connection and the events. And I'm even with that, there's burnout with that. If you're putting on events like we did and you know, not enough people are coming, or you know, it just, you just keep going. And like some of you said, like Jeff was saying about meditation, and Joyce saying taking vacations. I think we all have to step back and really take care of ourselves, and then, okay, this is what I do, this is what I love, and then you can do that better, and maybe set up better boundaries. And I think, but I know what you were asking, Joel, because the hard part is having that compassion, caring so much, knowing what you feel about dogs and what you give to your own dogs, and wanting your clients to do the same things. And if they don't, it's heartbreaking. And your compassion goes right to that dog. Like you know, you really know what they need, or what would hopefully help them. And if the client's not trying it, that's upsetting. And most of us come away from that feeling that we did something. That it's hard to, I know you were saying, Steve, that it's, you know, you realize that you can't do everything for every case and every person. And sometimes people really are taking in what you say, and then they don't call you back, or you leave them, you know, you've finished with your sessions, and then they do work on what you've given them. And they do realize later on, oh yeah, that trainer so-and-so that I hired, they really knew what they were talking about. And I think we really need to give ourselves more credit for what we do well, and that we know we're giving them what they need. And if they're choosing not to take it, then, you know, we've done our job, and we can step back and still feel good about it. Sorry, I rambled on into a lot of different areas, but
no, it's okay.
I mean,
that's okay.
I also have a hard time, like when I lose my dog, and Joel's and my dog, I need a huge break from it, because it affects me so much personally. So, you know, I think that's, you know, me giving myself space to be compassionate for myself. And then, okay, I'm ready. You know, I'm ready for my next dog. And people handle that different ways. That's how I do it, to take care of myself. And I can love other people's dogs. and pictures and puppies, you know, you know,
Well,
go crazy when you see a puppy in the street. Oh,
hug a puppy.
Hug a
that's
puppy.
it.
Like a puppy.
The best
That'll
medicine,
do it.
best medicine in the world.
Yeah.
There's a nice natural de-stressor.
Yep.
Natural de-stressor. I think this form, or I should say this topic in particular, for me anyway, is helping to almost de-stress me, because that's one of the things I come across sometimes when I'm working with clients is if I feel a little overwhelmed because I've, you know, either there's so much involved with it, with the training possibly, or the obstacle of maybe I don't feel like I'm getting through to the client, or just a case where it's just maybe a little bit above my skill level, maybe slightly, but I think I can still handle it. It adds stress on to me. But by the same token, we have a topic like this, and we've all had these situations, and we can always say, hey, look, and we haven't, it's not always us. Sometimes it's them.
Sure.
And they just haven't, you know, the compliance, what have you, things like that. Or they have, you know, some of them have a lot of, you know, the job, they have 12-hour days, and there's two, you know, husband and wife are both working. They've got kids, and they got a bunch of dogs and things like that. And it's tough because, like, for instance, I got a case right now, and this husband and wife, I'm working with a wife, they've got a golden retriever, adult golden retriever, and adult, this is interesting, a combination St. Bernard and poodle. So I don't know what you call that, but it's a combination of those two. And it was an accident. So what ended up happening is that, you know, I'm kind of getting a little off topic, but it's the same token, it's kind of stressful on me because I'm trying to work all this whole thing out, and they're trying to get some of these dogs to Singapore. So there's a whole dynamic involved in this. But it's kind of stressful. And in this situation, the dog, again, they had the two adult dogs, and one of them got pregnant. The female got pregnant and died. They had one other dog, the female that died. Unfortunately, the daughter forgot to put a diaper on her, and the male impregnated him. Had like 12 puppies. 2 of them died, and then she actually gave a couple away. And so she wants to give 2 others away, one to her niece and one to her sister in Singapore. So I'm looking at, you know, she wants me to train 5 of the puppies that are like not small dogs. They're like, you know, they're probably 50 pounds right now.
Sure.
So it's just, you know, and then going there and and then she wasn't there initially. I was about to leave, and all of a sudden the taxi pulls up. So it's, you know, you question yourself, do you hang in with it, you know, just because you think about the dog, or it's like, you know, not worth your time because they're not really putting an effort. But I see she really wants to make good on this, you know, and she's got like a, you know, hectic job. Her husband's a taxi driver, and I feel bad for the dogs in the situation that she's in. So I make it my duty to, you know, to see what I can do to help. And it's, you know, but then you get the stress also with, you know, my wife will say, hey, how come you take the dishes out? How come you didn't, you know, pick up the food tonight? Or, you know, so you get that added stress on top of the regular stress, and it's, you know, throws a wrench into it. And like Jeff, you were saying, like, you know, sometimes, you know, you take it out on the dogs, your own dogs, and they didn't do anything. You know, it's like, well, you want to get it again? You just ran out 5 minutes ago. Yeah. You know, and it's like, and they didn't do anything wrong. But they peeped, they didn't poop or something, you know. So, you know, so I think I think all of us have different ways of coping, and whatever works for you, whether it's a walk, whether it's meditation, whether it's listening to some soft, easy classical music or easygoing music, whatever that might be, getting a massage. You know, that's not my thing, but, you know, to someone else, it might be the greatest thing. So I think what works for you, you just got to do that sometimes. And that's basically it in a nutshell.
Okay.
That's a fascinating story. I mean, they put a diaper on the girl and expected that this boy wasn't going to work his way around the diaper.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right.
What is that about?
I don't know.
You know, Jeff, do you hear this? I mean, you know, they put a diaper on. I mean, you know, what a crazy, you know, they're not dog people, obviously, if that's the way.
No.
But it was an accident.
An accident waiting to happen, I guess, is what Steve is alluding to.
Oh, boy. Oh,
Separation doesn't work.
No.
Right.
It was a chaotic scene when I went there. It was like, because this was the other day, remember in New York, it was pouring. So the dogs, they keep the dogs in the basement, and they have a back door there. And the wall to that back door on the side, the dogs are ripping a hole in the wall. And now they rent the house, so they don't own the house. So now water is pouring into the basement. Luckily, they got a big drain down there. So now, between the going down the drain and the dogs at the same time are lapping up the water. So I told her, I said, I don't know how safe or healthy that is, and how sanitary that is. You know, they should be drinking out of the water bowl rather than just drinking out of water coming through the wall. You know,
But
so
David, the dogs are isolated from people too.
And thirsty out.
yes and no, they come out, but yes,
They
yes.
bring them up.
Yeah, they're I gotta say they're all pretty well behaved. They are pretty well behaved, but it was a
God
nightmare
for
getting there.
that.
The daughter's busy carrying a 50-pound. The daughter weighs like 25 pounds if the wind blows. Lifting this 50-pound dog on her and putting it back in because they're all trying to escape at the same time. And I said, listen, I can't work with all 5 hyper dogs at once. We got to do one at a time. So it was crazy.
Okay.
But it's
Wow.
Yeah.
It's important
Which
you
actually,
set your boundaries.
what's that?
It's important you set your boundaries.
Yeah.
Yes.
You're absolutely right. But actually, you bring up a good point. One of the things I want to ask you guys, see what your opinion was. You guys have heard of that snuffle muzzle? Snuffle, the
Mat.
muzzle that's like a mesh kind of a thing, like a net. It's a muzzle that's white. No, it's like a soft-looking kind of a muzzle kind of thing. But at any rate, so it helps that this dog, where the dog won't be picking up things it shouldn't be picking up.
Yeah.
So I was thinking of maybe incorporating that, so the dogs aren't constantly eating away at the wall and they're chewing other things up there in the room too.
Anxiety and isolation, distress, and lack of exercise, and the muzzle's not gonna.
No, they need to go
cruel.
to Disneyland. I mean,
Well,
That's cruel.
I'm gonna end it with this because
Wait. Joyce was gonna say something suggest something to David.
Go
Come
for
on.
a hike. Take them
What's
for a
that?
hike.
take them for a hike.
It's the best stimulation you got out there.
That's true. That's true.
So that story, David, made me think of something, which is a lot of this stress coming from the clients not knowing? Is a lot of this stress, like Steve said, well, they're obviously not dog trainers, so they're going to put a diaper on the dog and think that that's it. Is part of the way of dealing with the stress is that can it help by educating dog owners?
Oh, I think so. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
Like Joyce saying, setting up boundaries, setting up some management. Granted, there's some training involved, but if you could just throw some management in there, some supervision, mental stimulation, whether it be some puzzle toys or interactive treat dispensing toys or some nose work, things like that, that could take a lot of the edge off because she doesn't have the time. They don't have the time to exercise that much. Although that's something else we got to talk about, maybe getting a dog walk or things like that. But sure. I think they're somewhat strapped for money too. I don't think they're don't have a lot of money, so they got to do what they can do. So I got to come up with some other ideas to best manage and deal with the situation that she's dealt, basically. Okay. But one thing she did say, and I got to give her credit, is she goes, I'm not giving these dogs to anybody. I want them to be responsible dog owners. So, some people, they're looking just to sell their dog. They don't, they're looking for a price, it's money issue. Yeah. When I want to hear that, that's a thorn in my side. I don't like that.
I understand.
If you have a dog, you should just give it to someone that's responsible. And don't just, say, hey, well, if you don't have enough money, you're not getting the dog. A lot of people, they feel like, well, I invested so much money. I had to pay for the food. I pay for this, pay for that. So I got to reap some of that money. Yeah, 9 times out of 10, I don't agree with that. There might be some exceptions to that rule, but for the most part, I'm not on board with that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I think what I got out of this discussion is that it's not only about taking care of the dogs, it's about taking care of yourselves as trainers. And I think that last topic that we were just talking about educating the dog owners, as we talk about a lot on this forum, certainly could help as well. So as always, I want to thank you all for being here. I want to thank you all for watching, and we'll see you next time. Thanks a lot now. Bye-bye.
See you.
Bye.